Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Time with Byron. I am your host, Byron. This is episode number 87. Let's say I don't know. I'm lost, but hey, who cares? I know I'm close to 100, and we are on YouTube currently at Coffee Time with Byron, and available next day on all podcasting apps, Google, Spotify, iHeart, you name it, all of them. And alongside me is former Major League pitcher Sean Lowe. Thank you for joining us. How are you tonight?
Doing good, man. Appreciate you having me.
No problem. Unfortunately, I got it. It's the damn if you don't and damn if you do question that I have to ask. You, as a former player, this lockout is crazy, isn't it? I'm sure you're still a baseball fan, as many of you guys are still as retired players. This is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just kind of part of it. I go back to 94, 95, and I was a double A player at the time. And they did the lockout that off season. After the lockout, um, they put me on the 40-man roster. And therefore, when they did that, I couldn't go to spring training, couldn't do anything. And, we were locked out until it was in April, 1st of April, and they started. And I went to camp for about 5 days. And then I got one little outing, and then they shipped me out to double A. But, it makes it tough on guys like that. The guys that have kind of been there and made their money and have their careers, that they're fighting for guys like me at that time,
Right. Right.
For the guys that are coming up and it's the same story every time. It's always they're fighting over billions of dollars, which it is.
Right.
It's over a bunch of money, but
Right.
that's just the industry, and that's the way it goes. But I like what the players are going after, trying to take care of pre-arbitration players, the younger guys, because you have to play a long time in pro baseball at the major league level to get to a point where you can actually use your numbers and your stuff and your track record to get money, to get paid. So a lot of this stuff right now, what they're going over is that, to get those guys money, and then, the big bang is we called it a luxury tax back in the day. They call it a competitive balance tax now.
Yeah.
They're wanting to raise that because it's always a fight over so-called salary cap.
Right.
And the players kind of feel like they kind of use it kind of that way, which they probably do. That's kind of what it's for. But those few things are pretty far apart on, and I don't know how long it's going to last, man. It's pretty crazy. It's sad just because of the way, especially now with social media, like what we do. I mean, everybody's got a platform.
Podcast and everything. Yeah.
You can talk about it. People can share their feelings. You can hear about it. And most of the time it's negative. They're always just, they're kind of dogging the game. And, because when it gets down to the business side, even as a player, it's great to be a player. But when it comes down to the business side, it sucks. It's just never really any fun.
What do you make of people saying I mean, I'm 50-50 because I never played the sport. I wanted to, but I was just never good enough. What do you make of a lot of people saying that the players are just greedy and the owners are doing the right thing by locking them out? You as a player, I know you gotta hate when people say that.
Yeah, I mean it's not greed. It's if you take the amount of dollars that's involved in it, I mean, it's like any, my dad was a truck driver. He was in the Teamsters Union.
Right.
And I remember as a kid several times going down and picketing. He'd have to picket and do things,
Yeah.
And they're talking about a huge union. You're talking about millions of dollars. I mean, pension plans and all this stuff, but it's just not broadcast like baseball is. And they don't know what everybody's making. Baseball, everybody knows what people make, but it's never greed. It's about the principle and what you're playing for. It's it's not that they're just trying to grab every dollar that they can grab. They just want to get what they can get based on the whole industry, and you got to
Mhm.
split it up somehow, or the owners get all the money like they used to back in the day. But they're not afraid to pay them. I mean, before the lockout, there was record money being spent. 300 million with the shortstop from the Dodgers. He went to the Rangers. They weren't afraid to spend that right before. So,
Right.
it's just one of those things that that the press has to do it that way. The ownership side kind of gives out their side and wants people to think they're in the bad spot, and the players want to make sure that they get their expressions out, that they're trying to negotiate good and play the game. You got to have them. You got to have a collective bargaining agreement every 5, 6, 7 years. That's usually what comes up, and
Yeah.
it sucks. It got down to this point, to where they have to lock players out. People have been asking me, and I thought they had kind of had it done just because, but it looks like it may. Just from everything I hear, I'm not in on anybody. I don't have any secret people I talk to. I watch the same stuff you guys do, but it doesn't look very good, right now. And I'm hoping something good happens so we can start watching the game again. I've been watching a lot of college, which I like that. My son's getting into college next year,
There you
so
go. There you go.
yeah, so I'm a little more interested in that. I never had watched it much, but I do now.
Yeah, because
Still rather watch a
your
major
lockout
league.
your lockout went through basically the World Series and ended through that.
Yeah.
You were in the minors. You were a part of that. Is that where you see this going to? Where you see this happening, like what happened when you went through your
Well,
lockout? Has
yeah, when we did it, when they locked us out, they actually had scab players, replacements that went to spring training, and
Mhm.
they tried to play with replacement players, and they
Mhm.
did for a few weeks before they finally, after about a week or two of that, they kind of came to an agreement, but I mean, I don't think it's going to get that far to where they're going to try to get, replacement players. Obviously, they're not doing that now, or they would have already been talking about it. But,
Right.
I mean, like I said, I thought something good was going to happen with it. But, just from what I've been watching and reading and seeing, they don't look like they're closing their gap very much. But it's going to take a little work. They meet a little bit every day, but, right now they don't. They're bickering more than they're making decisions.
Right. It's horrible to see. Exactly. So you were drafted by the Cardinals in the first round of the '92 draft out of your
Mhm.
7-year major league career. That's pretty high up. That's pretty
Yeah,
amazing stuff there. Did you know you
yeah.
were did you know you were going to get drafted that high?
Not really. That was the third time I got drafted. So I got drafted out of high school. I was a 39th round or something like that. And I
Mhm.
went to junior college and I was a late pick like that. And then when I went to Arizona State, I had a really good year. I gained some velocity and I was thinking I was going to be somewhere we used to call it a sandwich pick, some in between the first and second round, a compensation pick, and
Mhm.
maybe a high second round pick. But it was pretty crazy. The Cardinals took me, and I didn't really talk to them much. I talked to a lot of the teams, but the Cardinals I never really talked too much. And next thing you know, they drafted me, and I was super happy they did. It's a great organization. To get drafted in and learn in, and the minor league systems, the people there. But it was a long battle for me. I was a first round pick. I was a 15th pick, but it took me four or five full seasons to break into the major leagues. So it
Yeah.
wasn't easy, but it was fun, and it was a good grind and a lot of life lessons inside that, and learning and different people and different lives, and sleeping on air mattresses, with living with 3 or 4 guys in a year. It's pretty crazy, but it was a lot of fun. But I still had to, being picked high, I still went through the grind of the minor leagues more than I wanted.
Now take us through the day of your major league call up. What was going on through your head? Who'd you call? Who told you? And did you have goosebumps your first day in the majors?
Oh yeah, it was. it was, I thought I was going to get called up that year. It was August 29th is the day. So 2 days later, they have a September call ups, so I was hearing that I was going to get the chance to do that, but I didn't, you never know for sure, but I was in Louisville with AAA for the Cardinals, and I had thrown a bullpen. I was a starter, and it was my bullpen day, and I was out there throwing, and they shut me down. They said, you can't, don't throw, you need to stop throwing, because I guess they had just called him, and went inside the clubhouse. The manager called me in. My manager was Joe Patini was his name, which he was with the Cardinals for a long time, in the minor leagues and big leagues. He became a big league coach after that, after I left the Cardinals, and was there for a long time. But he just called me in the office, and I thought, honestly, I didn't know what to think. I wasn't thinking that it was a call up. It's kind of weird. They stopped me. I'm like, what the crap, And, I go in the office, and he just kind of sat me down and asked me how I felt, and he said, well, we got a call from the big league club. Todd Stottlemyre, I don't know if you remember that name, big leaguer forever.
Oh yeah,
really good guy, awesome guy, awesome baseball guy, awesome teammate, person, all the way around. But he had elbow, or I don't know if it was elbow or shoulder, one or the other was bothering him, so they were going to shut him down. And he said, well, they asked if I like Kansas City. I said, yeah, it's a nice place. And they said, well, you're going to be pitching there in a couple of days, and I was like, really, and at that time, it's just like, you don't know what to think. I mean, when you dream of things like that, and then your whole life just revolves around playing the game, and just pretty much your whole identity at that time. You just kind of become a baseball player, and you don't really know you're that kind of what you are until you're done and it's gone. But I just sat there and took a deep breath, and shook Joe's hand and told him I appreciate everything. And I walk out of the clubhouse, walk out of my office into the clubhouse, and guys were just now coming in from taking batting practice, and I kind of told them, and do the old high five thing for a couple minutes. And back then, I went to the payphone. We had a little payphone in the locker room. That's 1997, so there wasn't many cell phones at that time.
No, there wasn't.
But, I went and put the quarters in the machine, and actually, I probably had a calling card or something. I don't know if I put quarters in there, but I just called home at that time. I wasn't married or anything at that time, and my parents were, the closest things that I had for support.
Right.
They were at everything they could be at, and I just called them and told them, like, they cried before I did, because they were just happy. They see what you go through as a player, and as when you're a parent watching your kid, go through good and bad, it's not always easy. So they feel the same stuff. So it was just a good little conversation. They were happy. And, 2 days later, they were, up in Kansas City and watched my debut.
Did you get to pitch in your debut, or did you have to wait?
I started. Yeah, I started. It was against Kansas City in Kansas City. And it was the first interleague game. But back then, they didn't play interleague until that year, and it was the first one, and that they call it, I think it's I-94 or something like that series with Kansas City and St. Louis.
Yeah, I-94. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And that when I first thought about Kansas City, I'm like, well, shoot, that won't be so bad because it won't be that crowded,
Right.
You want a crowd, but and come to know it was the first interleague. And it was the first sellout in Kauffman Stadium in like 10 years, So it was a packed house, I went like, dang, I didn't get out of the fifth. I went like 4 and 2/3, 4 and a third. I did good, and I got in a little trouble. I gave a few runs in the last inning. I think that I gave a few, and I think I might have even left with bases loaded. I don't remember, but we actually got out of it, and we won the game. I didn't get the win, but I did good enough to stay there through September. I think I got another start or two, before the year was over, but that was about it.
Now, you were with the team in '98 with the whole McGuire-Sosa chase.
Yeah.
what was that experience like being a part of something that?
Well, I was in the minors too, so I spent time. I spent time at both places. I was up and down like 5 times that year, but it was unreal. The time I spent there, the batting practice, there was 25,000 people watching batting practice.
Yeah, exactly.
They would open.
Even you watched it, I bet.
Yeah, oh, everybody did. I mean, the other team sit in the dugout and watch.
Yeah.
McGuire. I mean, it's amazing. The most amazing thing about how he hit home runs was just how high they went. They weren't just far. They sailed.
Yeah.
He just gets so much loft on it, and it goes so far. But that was cool. He hit a home run in my debut game. He hit a bomb there, which was really cool. But just being a part of the little bit that I was, and I got sent back down, and I didn't get called up that September, so I wasn't there. When he broke the record, which that kind of makes me mad. But they ended up trading me that offseason to the White Sox. That's probably why they didn't call me back up.
Probably.
It was crazy, man. That guy McGuire, I tell you. As a kid, I really didn't have much of a favorite player. I just liked the game. It wasn't no one person, but when I saw him and I got to play with him and how he handled all that stuff, he's real kind of a shy guy to himself, and he was so popular at that time, and everybody wanted a piece of him, and he was just down to earth and very supportive, and me being a rookie or whatever, he treated me great. But at that time, I'm like, man, I tell you what, that's the kind of big leaguer I want to be. I hate all the other stuff,
Yeah.
with the steroids and things like that. I mean, it takes away from what he really was, which was a really good dude, an awesome baseball player, and just a good person all around. But it was cool to be there. I faced Sammy quite a bit. Not that year, but over the years, and I always liked him too. And it was good to see that talking about all this, with that year. Right now with the strike or the lockout going on, that was the year after the lockout, or they're saying that's what saved baseball, because 95 really knocked it down, attendance went down, and then when that kind of happened, hope they may have to have another McGuire episode to save the game here.
I know, I agree with you on that. Something's got to happen to change the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you as a pitcher, you throwing in these guys, did you know something was going on like steroids, even though it was allowed at the time because there was no rulings against it?
Yeah.
Could you tell players were juicing up as a pitcher? Because you got to go up against these guys while your time up in the majors. So did you know something was going on?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you hear stuff. You don't know 100% unless you're there when they're doing something, but you hear things, and it was around, and when I was in the minor leagues, and I knew some guys, and, and I didn't really realize the amount of pitchers that did it. But after it was all said and done, it all kind of happened. I kind of looked at it more, for me as a pitcher, I never felt like I needed them, because I wasn't really trying to throw harder. I was just really trying to throw strikes better, make better pitches. That was kind of my deal. I never felt like I needed more zip. But, I felt like I had enough stuff, just needed to make it work, But, looking back now, how it can help you recover and do things like that, in a long season, you throw 2 or 3 days in a row out of the bullpen, and your arm's sore, that day it might help you, the endurance, the recovery time. And, so I played dumb. I mean, it never crossed my mind to mess with them, but, looking back, knowing what I know now, I don't know what I'd done. It's just knowing what everybody was doing it. But if you would have asked me back then, before I got done in 03. That was the year that the
whole Balco
testing came in. Yeah. They tested in spring training that year. And if over like 5% or 10% of the guys failed, then they would implement a drug program. And then there was more. We actually went over. I don't know who it was when, A-Rod got in there and Big Poppy was in there, and bunch of guys. I think Sammy and but they got released somehow. But you know, I would have said maybe like, I don't know, 20% of the guys, maybe. Yeah, you know, maybe 20% kind of. But, you know, when I look back now, it's like there was more than, I mean, probably half the guys or more. You know,
Yeah.
it was a lot more rampant than I actually knew, you know, and I was there every day, you know, but I didn't pay attention to it that much, just other than what I heard. And, you know, and it was just kind of one of those things, you know, back then as a player, you just don't say stuff about it. You know what I'm saying? You don't call, you might get blackballed or something. Look, you know, Jose kind of came out and he says to this day that he got blackballed, you know, and,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, with a lot of that stuff. And he might have, I don't know. But, you know, it was just one of those things as a player, you just didn't really, you ain't going to snitch on your guys or say anything about them, you know, but in all reality, you know, they were taking my job, you know. I
They
was
were.
afraid,
Yep.
you
Yeah.
know, I look back now that I'm done. It's like, man, I don't know if I got cheated or not, you know, but I know I had to go up against some guys that were, you know, juicing up and that just kind of crazy how everything just kind of flipped over and the players started pushing more for testing and doing things like that, which, you know, I would have been the same way. You know, I'd rather play on an even playing field, you know, if you got to go lift weights or get in shape, that's one thing. But, you know, when you supplement and you're able to have an advantage over somebody physically, you know, not necessarily strength or home runs or just physically every day. Because, you know, baseball is a grind every day. You know, you play a lot of games and there's very rarely a day off. And when there is, you're probably traveling somewhere, you know. So, I mean, it takes a toll on your body. So, you know, that's why guys do it. It's not even really just to, you know, like I said, hit home runs or get strong, but it's just to stay healthy and be on the field at your best, at your peak every
Right.
day. You know, that's the hardest
Right.
thing about it. So you have to be peaking every day or, you know, you get your ass handed to you.
So, what would you say besides your debut? What would you say is your would be your oh my god, I this is my big league moment that I've had in my career? What would you say? What would you say
Oh,
was your
man.
career moment?
You know, it's hard to say because, I mean, I didn't have nothing fancy or special. You know, I was just one of those guys that grinded through it, you know.
Mhm.
Uh, You know, there was just maybe one game, you know, I threw against Cleveland when it was like a Sunday night baseball game, you know, and I had a few years in the big leagues and, you know, I almost win a complete game. And, you know, I guess that's might have been, it's a big national game or whatever, but, you know, it's just, I didn't really, I mean, we made the playoffs one year that I played but I never got to pitch in it, you know, so I can't say that, you know, but really just, I don't know. I mean, being there the first time, I mean, maybe being able to stay there for a full year, you know, and being proud of that because it's
Mhm.
really hard, you know. And then, you know, after another year, you know, just every year, it was just like you know, a blessing, you know, that every day that you could spend there. But that, you know, in order to stay there for an extended period of time, that was probably the most fulfilling for me. And I wish it had been longer, but you know, it's just, it is what it is.
Very true. Now, this says you were primarily a middle relief guy. Now, did you want to be a starter?
Oh yeah,
Did you want
oh
to, or did you want to do the role you were primarily told to do, which was middle relief? What
yeah.
happened?
I came up. I started all the time in the minors. That's all I
Mhm.
did. I only had a few relief appearances. So I wanted to be. I felt like that's kind of what I was. But when I got, you know, when I got my opportunities to stay, it was, you know, I pitched out of the pen mostly, and that was with the White Sox. You know, after the Cardinals, and I was kind of I did a little bit of everything with, you know, I did long relief. Sometimes I'd come in and get, you know, in the sixth inning um, but I enjoyed the long relief because I was able to go in there and get innings, you know, but a lot of those innings sometimes were, I mean, we were either losing by a lot or winning by a lot, you know.
Yeah.
I picked up, you know, my first year out of the pen, I threw almost 100 innings out of the bullpen,
Yeah.
which is pretty rare, for bullpen guys. Usually they're 50 or 60, 70 innings maybe. So I got a lot of innings out of it, and I just got good at that. Sometimes when you get good at something, that role kind of sticks with you a little bit. But I had like 10 starts in a row in 2001, and I thought I did pretty good. And then they took me out of the rotation, and I went back to the pen, and and I got traded that off season to the Pirates, and I got the phone call in the off season, and the pitching coach was like, "Hey man, we want to get 200 innings out of you this year," and I said, "Yeah." So I was like, I thought it was an open door, which it was. I mean, it was a good opportunity. I got traded with a couple other guys, and went to spring training and did really well. Gave up one run in like 20 innings, and they ended up putting me in the pen anyway. Because they just felt like I could handle it better than the guys that they had. They just wanted to go with their best guys. At the time, I'm like, whatever. I was kind of bitter, but looking back now, it made sense. As a player, I just wanted that. I wanted the chance to be a guy, to be in a rotation every day, to try to get 25, 30 starts, but it just didn't work out that way. But they might have let me start a little bit more if I'd have, there's a few starts they gave me. I just didn't have that great of a year for them. So, I kind of shot myself in the foot.
Now, did you have a different mindset as a middle relief compared to what you were as a starter? Is there a different mindset? Is there a different routine? What do you got to do differently than as a starter?
Oh yeah. Mindset, depending on the situation. Like I said, I did a little bit of everything, but when I got in that situation where I was just going to go in and get that one inning, that's a lot different than being a starter. The mindset of it, you go after hitters maybe a little bit different. And I wasn't a guy that was going to strike out a whole bunch of guys in that big blower, but I would try to probably get more strikeouts, or try to put guys away sooner to get out of that inning, rather than maybe setting them up or going after them a different way as a starter, knowing that I might see them again, in the third, the fifth, or whatever. As far as like on that day's mindset, if you're looking at it from preparation, it's a whole different animal. You have to, when you're in the bullpen, you have to be ready mentally every day. There's no time off to relax your mind, or just take a day off. You might be in there. So when you prepare, your workout routine, you just got to get in these little rhythms on a daily basis that kind of get you into that mode every day. It's similar to, I guess, a position player, but get you to be ready, like when you get to the field, the amount of throwing that you do, the sides, the bullpens, all your lifting. It just kind of, that's all the same stuff, but it's just done differently on a daily basis. When you start, you pitch every fifth day. So, I mean, it's a lot easier to know exactly how to prepare your body and be strong, and be strong. And you got your day off after you pitch, and then you got your next day, you got your bullpen, and you got your weights, and then you got your running. It's all designed for one day, and it's that fifth day. Everything builds to that fifth day, whether you're watching video or, scouting the other hitters, watching them on video, and watching yourself, you against what they look like. You just have a lot more time to prepare for that one game. When you're pitching out of the bullpen, you're preparing for every game. So as soon as you're there, you're preparing for that game. You don't. There's nothing else after that. You get to the field as a starter, and it's not your start day. You're preparing for 3 days from now. You know what I'm saying? It's just the whole mental side of it.
Yeah, the mental side. Yeah,
I enjoyed that part of it way more. I felt like I was a lot better when I could go out and give innings, whereas going in and trying to get a guy here or an inning here, so but to play in the big leagues, I'll take any job they give me, and just try to help win, and do good at your job, that's all I tried to do. The time that I spent there every day was to stay there, to try to stay. I never had a chance to relax a whole lot. It wasn't that easy for me. It's just a real tough game. It's a fun game, and when you're going good, there ain't nothing better. But sometimes when you're not, it's pretty dang tough on you.
Right, exactly. So we talked a little bit about. I'm going to do the rest of your teams as well, but we already talked about the Cardinals. I'm not going to do that because we already did it on that. You said also you got traded first to the White Sox. You spent 2 years there.
Played three.
3, yeah, sorry, my bad. 3. You spent 99 to 2001 there.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell the audience how that experience was playing for the White Sox? That crowd, that atmosphere, the teams that you had, and if you had any special games you had with them.
That's who I spent 3 years with them in a row, and it was all in the big leagues. I spent a little bit of time in the minors for 10 days in 01. I'm not real sure why, but I did. But the White Sox were great. When I got traded over there, it was a perfect place for me. I pitched with the Cardinals for 2 seasons, 2 seasons up and down, and I just really didn't do a whole lot to make them want to keep me in the big leagues. I had some moments, but I just didn't do it very good consistently. I pitched really well for them in the minor leagues, gave them a ton of innings there, and just wasn't getting over the hump with them. But when I got traded to the White Sox, I knew a lot of the guys. They were younger. It was at the time. It was the motto was the kids can play. So they were really promoting a lot of young guys. And
right.
When I got there, Frank was already there, and Ray Durham.
Yeah.
Those 2 guys, and then that's about it that were veterans.
Jermaine Dye.
What's that?
Was Jermaine Dye with them too, or did
he wasn't there yet? No, he wasn't there. He was with Kansas City, I think, at that time.
Oh yeah. That's right. I forgot.
I go back to him in the minor leagues. I played him quite a bit when in AAA, but he came like a year or 2 after I left. He was able to get there for the World Series, But we had Canerco had just gotten traded over from the Reds. Maglio Ordonez, he got called up the same day to the big leagues that I did when I was in Louisville. We told that story. Maglio was in town on the visiting team, and he got called up that same day. But that's how I knew him. So when I got into camp, there were several guys I played against quite a bit that were that I knew real well, and they were young. So I just kind of fit in better for whatever reason, and I had a good spring and made a team, and they treated me great. Jerry Manuel was the manager, and he was real good to me. I felt like he gave me great.
Jerry Manuel.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and he treated me right. He was always up front with me. And then we just didn't have a whole bunch of guys, as far as like big names, but they're big names now, So it was a perfect little trade for me. And, like I said, they gave me a lot of innings, and, they're a class act organization. Great people there, trainers, the staff was great. It was 3 great years. We made the playoffs in 2000. We won 95 games that year, and that was the most wins in the major leagues. And we ended up playing Seattle in the first round, and we got swept in 3 games. And I had game 4. I was starting the game 4 back at home.
Mm-hmm.
And we got swept out. We lost 1-0 in that last game on a squeeze bunt in the bottom of the 9th inning.
That was the year that they left their old stadium, right, to go to Safeco. That was the first year, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we played there. I think we might have been one of the first games there. We did it there and did the same thing in Milwaukee. It was kind of like the same time when they
Yeah,
both
because I
opened the
think the new
stadium.
Miller. Yeah, I think the new Miller
Yeah.
part started too
So
that
we
year.
either played an exhibition game there before it was a real game. So I don't know if that was considered the first real game, but I do remember going to Seattle that year and the bullpens in left field. And at the time, it was like where you're throwing on the bullpen, the mound, and then to the just 2 feet away from you is a fence
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there underneath the stadium, and there was unbelievable amount of people, and they were, I mean, 2 feet away from you, they were all in you. I mean, saying anything and everything.
To
And
this day, they're still like that too. The crowd is still over watching you guys.
they didn't have any security guys down there.
Yeah,
But, so we, that night we went in, we told them, we're like, hey, this is pretty rowdy. So the next night, they had a couple of guys down there that helped. But that's an awesome place, man. I love that ballpark. It's still nice now, but back then, I mean, it was a big park. The fence, they didn't move the fences in. It was a pitcher's type park, and usually in the summertime, it's really great weather.
But
So
what was it like playing against that team? Because that team had powerhouses. No wonder why they swept you guys. They had
yeah, they got us, but
yeah,
they got us because they outpitched us. We didn't
yeah.
score any runs.
A-Rod, Johnson, Griffey, Ichiro's first year.
Yeah, Edgar Martinez. Yeah, John Olerud, Edgar Martinez,
Jamie Moyer.
Jamie Moyer. Gosh, they had Mike Cameron.
Yeah.
Who was their shortstop? I can't even remember who their shortstop was. Had Mark McLemore played there.
Yep.
Jay Buhner.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So they were really good. That next year in 2001, that's when they won 116 games.
Games. Yeah, they were projected. I believe both years. If I believe so, they were projected both years to win the World Series.
Yeah, yeah.
2000,
A lot of us thought they would have. Yeah, a lot of us thought they would. That 01, they were unreal. They just didn't lose. They were stacked from top to bottom. Starting pitching, bullpen, they could hit, they had great defense, but of course the Yankees beat them.
Yeah.
But then they lost to Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me now, after you leave, since you had memorable years in Chicago and those memorable almost playoff experiences with the White Sox that year against the Mariners, you didn't go to Pittsburgh, and you played for two teams that year, Pittsburgh and Colorado Rockies in 02. What was that like that whole year for you? Switching half with one team and switching half with the other. What was that like?
Actually, what happened, I just didn't pitch very well that year. And toward the end of the year, I think they were going to trade me or try to trade me. And so I didn't pitch like from right at the trade deadline. They didn't pitch me for like 6 or 7 days. But I think it's because they were just trying to trade me, and they couldn't work nothing out, or however it was, or nobody wanted me. I don't know. I didn't pitch that well that year, but they sent me down at the trade deadline on August 1st. And I spent 3 weeks, I think, in the minor leagues, and they called me back up right at this September. I think it wasn't 3. It was like August 8th or 9th. They sent me down, so it was like 2 or 3 weeks in minors, and they called me back up. And I had one outing back up there, and then they called me in the office before we went on a road trip, and they just released me. So when they released me, I just drove home. And by the time I got home, my agent called and said the Rockies wanted to sign me. So Sandy Alomar Jr. was over there, and I played with him in 01. And I pitched really well that year. That was the year I got a lot of starts with the White Sox, and Sandy kind of got me over there. He saw that I got released, and he went with Dan O'Dowd and kind of pushed and said, "Hey, man, you ought to try to give this guy a chance." So they called me, and a couple of days after I got released, and I ended up signing a deal with them for that rest of that year with an option for the next season. So I spent, I don't know, like it was like 3 weeks of the season that year with the Rockies. So it wasn't very long. It was kind of a tryout, I guess. They signed me for that year with an option. So, and I did okay. I pitched out of the pen with them. I don't remember how many innings I threw. I threw quite a few, but they weren't the greatest innings. I just didn't pitch that great that year. And the best thing that came out of that was probably the team party that we had. That was pretty good. That Denny Nagel, I don't know if you remember that name.
Yep, I remember him. I've been trying to get him on my podcast, but I haven't had no luck.
Yeah, Denny's he's a good dude. He's a good guy. But I don't talk. I see him on Facebook, things like that.
Yeah, that's why I got a hold of him at first. Yeah, but I got nowhere.
I don't see him out there much, honestly, like on anything. So he just kind of does his thing, But he knew some guys, and we had a real good team party. Rascal Flats came, and Toby Keith, and it was in Arizona is where we had it. It was our last road trip.
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably the best thing that happened out of those few weeks. And when the off season came around, they didn't pick my option up, so I became a free agent, so to speak, and I signed with the Royals that year.
Yeah, I saw that because like we were talking about earlier, go figure, you make your debut there in Kansas City, and you end your career in Kansas City.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Because you played.
It was great. I mean, I loved it there. I mean, like I said, it's still one of
players. You guys had good players, just couldn't get
that year. Yeah, that year we were in the first place pretty much all year. I started out. I started.
You had Damon.
Yeah. Damon left that year. Damon and we just talked Jermaine Dye. They both got traded. And we had Carlos Beltran. He was our center fielder.
Yep.
Michael Tucker was our right fielder.
Yep.
Gosh, I can't remember who.
Raul Mondesi.
Who's that?
Raul Mondesi.
He wasn't there yet. Mike Sweeney played there. Carlos Davis. Yeah, Joe Randa. I mean, we had a good group, but we were in first place the whole year, and they hadn't sniffed first place in many, many years.
Right, since the George Brett years.
Yeah, and at the end of the year, I got shipped out at the end of the year. They didn't get first. They ended up losing, but I didn't play in September or in August. They sent me down to the minor leagues. But that was a business thing, kind of what I was talking about business. I had some incentives that I was going to be hitting to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
I pitched good for them. I was kind of like the middle sixth inning guy, fifth, sixth inning guy, seventh inning sometimes. But they traded. They got another. What was his name? Another guy. He's just like me. They got him on the cheap, and they got him in a trade, and he was only making the minimum because he got released in spring training, and the Cardinals were paying his whole salary that year, so they got to sign him.
Supon?
No, it was God, I can't think of his name now that we're talking. He wasn't a big, huge name, but we were very similar, and like if we did the same thing, and they had an opportunity probably to go there and get him, save a little money. And, they shipped me out, and they didn't get first place either. That's what kind of made me mad because I felt like I was helping them. I helped them get there, and I felt like I gave them some good innings. But, that's just the way it is. That's the business side of the game, and, it can eat you alive, and after that year, I didn't, I had that off season. I had a few offers to go play, but I just decided it was like going to minor league camp, and just grinding me out. I just had my second kid, my son Johnny, just had him that year. Had two other kids already, and I was 32 years old, 33, and that's what I was saying. When you're a baseball player, you don't realize how much the game actually holds on to you
Right.
until you don't have it, and you realize that there's actually a whole nother life out there besides thinking about baseball. So it's pretty crazy, but I look back, I probably would have went and played again and just tried to grind it a little bit more, but I was just kind of at the end of as you can kind of tell, the last few years I was kind of up and down, and having tough years, and it just kind of puts a toll on you, and it is what it is. That was it.
Now, you had about close to 300 strikeouts in your career.
Mm-hmm.
Two-part question. What pitcher would you say you had the most success against? What hitter did you have the most success against, and what hitter pretty much dominated you?
Probably. I mean, I did really good against Sammy Sosa. I think I faced him like, I don't know, up to 20 times maybe. I think he had one hit. I did really well against him. He probably out of a big name, or that anybody would recognize.
Mm-hmm.
There's another guy named Chris Steins. He's kind of like me, old journeyman, big leaguer. But I faced him a lot in the minor leagues, and he wore my ass out. And then when I faced him in the big leagues, probably 5-6 times or whatever it was, he wore me out there too. He probably had the most success on me out of anybody, and I faced him quite a bit. But Bernie Williams, lefties a lot of times got me. Tony Gwynn was 3 for 4. I did good against like Edgar Martinez. I did good against him. A lot of the right-handers. I always had my most trouble against lefties, but I would say Bernie Williams probably had I don't even think I got him out. I didn't face him a lot, but I don't think I ever got him out.
That's the one thing I can say about that era of baseball, which I grew up on since I'm 30. So I grew up in the 90s era, is I honestly enjoyed that era a lot, even though, yes, unfortunately, it'll be called the steroid era. Unfortunately, I hate it, but whatever. It is what it is. I grew up idolizing a lot of Hall of Famers, players like you, a lot of good names, a lot of good names. This day, yes, there are names out there, but it doesn't seem like, at least when you, in your era when you played, there was tons and tons of Hall of Famers, soon to be Hall of Famers, guys you always knew. This era, I mean, yeah, you have your teams that have some players, but other than that, it doesn't seem like hardly any teams have that core of good players like you guys did. You see that too? Like, you guys literally had almost every single team had Hall of Famers slash to be Hall of Famers, well named players.
Yeah, I think. I mean, they're still out there. The one thing about it, a lot of it too, is just with free agency too, and the way they work their rosters, how they move guys in and out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Guys don't stay with the same team as much as they used to. You get those hometown guys, and those are hard to find now because they just don't stay around that much anymore. But
Right.
I mean, I remember facing lineup like Cleveland Indians, and you got, Kenny Lofton,
Yeah, Jim Tomey, Manny Ramirez,
Omar Vizquel,
yep, Omar
Roberto
Vizquel,
Alomar,
yep,
Jim Tomey, Albert Bell,
yep, Albert Bell,
Manny Ramirez. I mean, these guys are all 300,
yeah,
330 hitters with, 100 RBIs, 120 RBIs. You just don't have those guys anymore. Those kind of, you got these home run guys, which is all great, but if they don't bat 330 and hit
Right.
40 jacks.
See, so you get my drift too. It's like
Yeah,
'90s. You had almost every single team had Hall of Famers or soon to be Hall of
yeah,
Famers. This
yeah,
generation's like what? Like
yeah,
like
yeah,
most of the teams, I don't even know any of the players that much.
yeah, yeah. It's hard for me. Like it's hard for me now. I used to, this would be, I guess, my 18th, 19th year since I played, and uh, I used to watch it more because I knew a lot of the guys, But
Yeah.
now every one of them's gone. I think
Right.
maybe Pool Host might be the only guy
Yeah.
that's still
Schools, I
playing.
think, is the only one left. Yeah.
And most of my friends now they're they're coaches, or a
Yeah.
manager,
Right.
um, but it's the game's changed a ton, just everything around it. The shifts, which now they're saying that they're not going to do that anymore.
Right. Yep.
I don't even remember guys that I faced that I had that couldn't hit the ball the other way, or take advantage. If we just left the left side of the infield open, that wouldn't take advantage of that. In today's game, they just don't want to because they don't have to, and they can bat.
Yeah.
If I face guys in the big leagues, every big league hitter's good. Don't get me wrong, but there's a difference between a 220 guy and a 330 guy. You know what I'm saying? And if you got a 300 hitter with power, I mean, that's hard to deal with.
Yeah.
Now you've got guys that got power, but they're 220 hitters. 240 even at that. And it's just crazy how that has changed to where they just don't adjust their swing. Most of the time the guys that I faced, they give you one side of the plate or the other, but you had to figure out which one they were looking for, and most of the time they were looking away from, with two strikes because they were willing to take the ball the other way or take it where it was pitched. They would give in a little power to get a hit or to put the ball in play. Nowadays that's just don't exist. The whole philosophy, the whole hitting approach, the way they're teaching it, they want you to walk or get an extra base hit. The singles are, and making contact, that's just not important anymore. And it's sad for the game, just because it takes a certain kind of player out of it. Even a Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle, he couldn't play in today. I'm not saying he couldn't. I'm just saying that they might not even want him in today's game. And he's, got 4,000 hits because, he's going to get a lot of hits. He's going to hit his doubles and homers, but he's going to get hits. He's going to get singles and he's going to be on base and he's going to steal, and it's just kind of the way things have gone lately, with the power. It's the power more than anything, because if you can hit it over their head and they can't catch it, that's good. But if you can't, guys wouldn't do that. In my day, there was power. There was guys that hit home runs, but not every single guy in the lineup was going to take you deep. And nowadays every guy in the lineup's got, 20 jacks, and it's just changed the philosophies on how, how hitters go up there and approach the game. So you got guys that are shifting and, if you get me to hit a ground ball, I'll just hit it to you. I won't try to change anything, but I'm going to try to lift it out of the park, So I think it loses a little spice, that speed and stolen bases and the bunt hit and, the hit and runs, just little things like that make the game exciting. They're just not part of it as much anymore.
So a couple more questions before I let you go, because I know it's getting late over here. I'm sure it's getting late over there too. I think we're in the same time zone, so it's getting late. So
I'm Central Time.
Mm-hmm. So I got a couple more questions. You obviously retired in 2003. I know you had family, like you said. After your last game, did you ever think about one point in time getting into coaching or broadcasting?
Yeah, broadcasting never. This is about as good as I get. I was never, I'm a little shy actually, never doing that. Coaching for sure. Um, I would have loved to have, and I'd love to now, but back then when I got out of it would have been the time to kind of start, to get into minor leagues. And, I had young kids and I'd been on the road for, 14 years playing ball. And, I just didn't want to go back on the buses and get in the grind and do that again. I just wasn't ready for that, with my kids and my family. And so I didn't do it that way, but I kind of took a break from the game a little bit. And when my son got old enough to play, 4, 5, 6 years later, I kind of got into, coaching kids, and now it's kind of a passion of mine. So I do coach now. It's not in pro level or anything, but I coach kids and I help develop young players, so I spend a lot of time doing that and trying to help the next generation coming up. I like that side of it, the development, and working the kids out and, practicing and teaching them the fundamentals and teaching them how to play the game the right way, which is getting thrown out the door. Try to be humble every now and again and treat the game right, so there's not much of that going on anymore. So there's only a few of us left, it seems, that are trying to at least hone it down a little bit and let the respect of the game and integrity stay where it is,
Yeah. So your rookie year, back to your rookie year in 97, 98, I guess 98 would be your kind of full year, I guess, or 99. One of them years would be your full year. But I know every rookie goes through this. It's a baseball tradition. I don't know why, but it is. What did they have you do crazy, the rookies? What did they have you dress up as any? Because I've had a lot of players say they've dressed up like crazy and done crazy stuff. What they have you?
I had to I actually wore like a pink tutu, like with leotards, and that's with the Cardinals, and we had to go through. We didn't just fly on the tarmac. We actually had to go through the airport. It was late, so that was a little bit good, but it was all of us. There was, I don't know, 5 or 6 of us. And they just get you a little uniform or whatever. Some guys had, I had a tutu. Next guy had some other kind of dress or whatever. And guy had a Hooters outfit or whatever it was. But I had to do that. We had to sing on the bus. You had to get the beer off the bus and or off the plane, bring it on the bus. Just about anything. That they wanted you to do, you kind of had to do. If you respect the game, kind of what I was saying. They never did anything overboard. It was all in good, and it was just about learning, and respecting the game. So it was a lot of fun. I got to do guys after that, every year after that. So, it's always in good fun. I don't even know if they do that much anymore.
They still do. They still do.
Yeah,
I've heard stories. They still do. I've seen it on TV.
It's all good, we dress guys up in all kinds of stuff, and we did Aaron Rowan. I don't know if you remember Aaron Rowan.
Yeah, I remember him. Yep, Gold Glove center fielder.
Yeah. When he came up, we got him in one of those little wrestling outfits, with the little, and he was already like jacked up, muscles, little. But he was good, and we dropped him off. We was in New York, and we were driving the bus. We dropped him off and made him walk. It was like 3 or 4 blocks. It wasn't very far. And then the next day he met us. There's me and Canerco, and he met us at lunch. In that same outfit. But he was a good guy. He was a gamer, dude. And I saw him about a year ago in the airport. And it was with my son and a couple of his teammates, and we were out in Arizona playing a baseball tournament. And I saw Aaron, and we were waiting in the airport for our plane to leave, and he came and he sat with him and talked to him, and he told him that story. So it's a good story, but that's all in good fun. And I'll dress up every day, if I could stay there every day,
So now this is a two-part question. Um, when you were getting called up and you were still a rookie in your early years, uh, what pitchers, players, or coaches helped you along your career since you were a journeyman? And at the towards the end of your career, like to say the last 2 years of your career, what what players, pitches, or pitchers or players did you help along your way to retirement as
Oh,
a veteran?
uh, there was always, a few guys here and there. As far as the coaches go, they're mostly the minor league guys. I spent a lot of time with my pitching coach. His name was Marty Mason. Uh, I played like 3 seasons with him, him coaching me. And, he was an Alabama guy. I'm a Texas boy, so we're Southern guys. We kind of got along, so to speak.
Right.
But I spent a lot of time. It's probably more time I spent with him, but I learned a lot from him. Not only just the pitch and stuff, just the little nooks and crannies of the mental game and things like that. And the other coach, what was his name? Riggins, Mark Riggins. He actually taught me a pitch. It was a cutter, and once he taught me that and I got good at it, that's when I got to the big leagues. It was a difference maker. But he just sat down the bullpen one day and he just kind of showed me. He was in AA. He kind of showed me how to hold it and stuff. And I'm glad he did, because that was a pitch that it made a difference. It was something I needed that made the world of difference in me getting guys out. Consistently, quicker, getting more ground balls with it. I kind of became a ground ball guy after that. My ball kind of sunk, and I threw a cutter. But those two guys probably, for the big league level. My college coach that I had at Arizona State was a big influence. I still spend time with him to this day. He lives here in Texas, and we coach together actually. But his name was Dub Kilgo. But he was a huge impact, and because he was the first guy that really taught me about mechanics and it made the few changes that he helped me make made the difference in me getting drafted like I did in the first round. I mean, I had a lot I owed to him just for the learning, the little things that made the difference that I just didn't know,
Yeah.
It got me in shape. But those three guys probably on a sport, pitching, for me, guys bringing me up, you know, um, David Wells was a good guy. I got to hang, I learned a lot from him in just the 1 year I played with him. A guy like McGuire, Stottlemyre, Tom Pagnozzi. I don't know if you remember that name. Those are all the guys that were on the Cardinals that when I got brought up, that kind of, showed me what a big leaguer was supposed to be like. These guys were, 7, 8, 10, 12 years in the big leagues. Rick Honeycutt, Eckersley was there. Eckersley, my locker was right next to him. He was mad about that. I know. Usually he doesn't have anybody next to him, but we had so many guys up there and a lot of injuries. So I got stuck next to him, and I was there a month that year. And he never one time, I never said one word to him. I did get a ball signed by him at the last day, though. I asked him.
Well, there you go. That's a plus.
Yeah, I still got it, but that was something that was pretty cool. I was lucky when I got brought up at that time with that team. Tony La Russa was the manager. They were as professional as it can get. They really cared about service time and respecting the guys and how to be a big leaguer and how to go about your business every day to win. It was just a real serious atmosphere, but it was just with a group of guys that just have been there a long time, and just watching them more than them kind of carrying me under their wing, but just me paying attention to them. And, and Frank was a good guy to me when I got over there with him. Canerco, spent a lot of time with him. There are a few guys that came up that I kind of a little bit took care of, I guess. A little bit, maybe, I guess, is, like John Garland. I don't know if you remember that name.
Yep. Good pitcher.
Yeah, Mark Burley. Yeah,
yep, Mark Burley. Drew a no-hitter against the Rays. I remember that.
Yeah. He, those two guys were they were youngsters, and when we was with the White Sox, and I guess, I didn't have much time in then anyway, but I've been around for a while. I was a little older than they were. But and Aaron Rowan, he always tells me he appreciates, the time I spent with him and just helping him do little things here and there. And, other than that, I wasn't much of the big league guy that carried people around, but I always treated people right. I always cared about them. And I'd always do anything for them. So, I think that's the respect that I got, from other people and that I gave to them. So, there may be some guys out there that you'd ever talk to that might say that I helped them. I feel like I tried to help anybody, but a lot of times I needed the help, but I think I went about it right. And I think the guys that I influenced ended up going about it right. And hopefully they passed it on. They passed it on the same way I did,
So final question before I let you go is, what was your pitching repertoire and what was your go-to pitch that you mainly used to get everybody out?
Yeah. Well, my fastball was, I threw 88 to 92, which today that's probably 92 to 94.
Mm-hmm.
When I say today, the guns are faster, I think. But, but my ball sunk. I had a little bit of a sink. I threw a cutter, like I said, which goes the other way. So
now you learned.
One would kind of run into a righty, so to speak, and one would go away. They're similar, just going the opposite directions. But my curveball was always my pitch. That was the difference maker for me because it kept them off my fastball. It was a little bit slower, and I felt like it was pretty good. I could throw it anytime in the count, So that was my out pitch. If I could get 2 strikes on you, if I got there, I'd try to throw a strike. I'd try to get to my curveball and try to get you to chase it. And if I didn't, then I'd try to get my fastball so I can get back to my curveball to get you to chase it. So the curve was my out pitch, but I threw 4 pitch. I threw a changeup as well, but it was always my last pitch. It was more of a show me pitch. I didn't use it too much in times where I could get beat on it. But I'd use it in between here and there just to keep guys and let them know that I had one, But for the most part, it was sinker, cutter, and breaking ball, curveball.
Perfect. And last one is define your career in one word. I asked that to everybody, and we'll call it a night.
Fun.
There you go. Couldn't have said any better.
Yes, sir.
You grind it. You grind it out, as you said.
Blessing.
Yeah. Well, I thank you so much for doing this. You're more than welcome to come on anytime. I appreciate it. I'll send you the full episode. So if you want to share that as well, I'd appreciate it as well. And also, if you know anybody else, I'm always looking for more interviews. So please send them my way if you still know anybody from when you played. Okay. I'd appreciate it as well. But other than that, thank you for joining. This concludes episode number 87 with Sean Lowe, former Major League pitcher. Until then, follow us on YouTube at Coffee Time with Byron. Also on Spotify, Google, iHeart, you name it, all them podcast notes. Also at Coffee Time as well. And is there anything else you would like to add before we head off, Sean?
No, man. Just I appreciate coming on. I enjoyed talking to you.
Perfect. Perfect. Same as well. And I'll be texting you here and there as well. And let's get this baseball season going,
I
hopefully.
hear you on that, buddy. Take care.
You too. All right. You have a good night.
You too.
Well, that concludes episode number 87 of Coffee Time with Sean Lowe. You all have a good night. Take care.